whenever I hear a lot of, whenever I hear about the maturity of your understanding of data, right? So I think there's one interesting story that always comes to my mind. I recently started my consulting career helping businesses understand data and strategize with it. And one of my clients was one of the largest financial services bank, and pretty known for its data, pretty known for its technology. And I went in and I said, okay, show me your technology stack, show me your data stack. And they say most of our data is hanging around in Excel spreadsheets. So I said, wow, like that was after that I start breathing easy and saying, okay, don't worry, you will survive, because I've seen heroes using the bare bone tools survive as well. So I think I totally resonate with what you observed with the Pentagon story there. And I think in other piece I really want your perspective on. So I remember talking to one of the oil rig. So one of the business unit head president, and I think there was some confusion on like how. So their struggle was to increase the collaboration between the data office and the president, and basically the business unit in utilizing it insights, right? And basically, in one of the conversation, the president and data office, sir, we sat in the room and we're talking about it. And I said, what are your struggles, or what is your best day? The data officer said, my best day is if this guy talks data, right? I can go home early, life is successful and all that. And then I asked, okay, the president, what is your best day looks like? He said, my best day is if this guy talks English, right? I barely understand what a single word he said. So I think that, and your last story about the importance of story in basically in communicating, that's super critical. So what has been your observation in basically abilities of these business units, these large organizations, in better storytelling to empower their culture? Because you rightly pointed out, one of the leading cause of the confusion is the culture. That's very difficult to shift. So what has been your observation?
Yeah, well, I think that's an exceptional question. Great question. So let me just describe a few stories. So some number of years ago, I went into a large insurance company, met with the president of one of their line of business heads. I was with one of my colleagues at the time who was an MIT PhD in high performance computing. So for 55 minutes, my colleague regaled this president, CEO, with the ins and outs of cardinality and ordinality and all types of data types. And it was absolutely brilliant. It was like sitting in a college PhD physics class. And it was absolutely fascinating. I had heard it before, even though I'd heard it many times. I still was able to understand about 20%, but I knew it was absolutely brilliant. So I never said anything through the meeting. The guy asked a couple of questions, but he seemed completely engaged. And at the last 2 minutes of the hour, he turned to me, put his hand on my arm, and he said, so what exactly does this mean? And I said, it means that you can do it faster, cheaper, more cost effectively, and you can do a better job of competing with your customers. And he said, thank you very much. So one of my learnings from that is that ever since I started writing for the Wall Street Journal and subsequently in Harvard Business Review and MIT Sloan Review and so forth, I always try to, first of all, I'm always writing with CEOs in mind. I'm trying to make complex technology concepts understandable to CEOs. So I joke, but I'm only half kidding. I say that I try to write everything that I write at a third grade level, so that people don't have to guess, they don't have to figure out. It's so abundantly clear. And I guess professionally in my career, that's a thing that I learned early on. It's not about being the smartest person in the room or trying to be smarter than the other person that you're presenting to. It's trying to make sure that they understand. And I had a colleague once many years ago that he would ask technical colleagues to explain something. And they do it the first time, he'd say, I don't understand. And so they do it a second time and say, yeah, I still don't get it. And they go a third time and you go like, yeah, maybe it's me, but I'm not really getting it. And it forced them, absolutely forced them to put it in as plain a terms, so ultimately it becomes understandable. And when I'm interviewing client organizations for case studies, whatever I'm doing, I mean, I will ask the same questions 10 times until it can be translated into something that's understandable. And I wrote the book really for three audiences. One is I wrote it for business executives, C-level executives, CEOs, board members, so they could understand really what the impact and why data was critically important to their organizations. I also wrote it for general readers who have been hearing all about positive data for positivity rates for COVID and the need to develop new vaccines and how all the data is organized. So there's been more information, more data about data in the news over the past year or 2 years than any other time in history, be it even political polls and political campaigns. Like how do they say this person's leading or that person's leading? So I really tried to write it for the general readers so they understood what the fuss was about. And then I also tried to write it for data practitioners. And what I did in that context is I provide case studies from roughly 25 Fortune 1000 organizations so that those who want to dig deep can look at specific examples of what organizations like American Express, Capital One, MasterCard, Travelers, organizations of that kind are doing to be successful and differentiate themselves.